Hi you guys, and welcome to Nervous Tissue. We're starting a new chapter, and it's chapter 13. We want to begin by thinking of function. So what is this nervous system doing? It's the control system. So think about the trillions of cells that you have in your body, and they need to not do whatever they want to do because that would create chaos. So what you need is for some central control to make sure that all these cells are doing the right thing. That's the nervous system, right? We've also seen in the previous chapter that it stimulates movement, right? It's what's going to control muscle movement. And I'm saying here that it maintains stasis. Homeostasis is the balance of the internal environment of the body. So it maintains that balance along with the endocrine systems. So the endocrine system also can do that. It can also control. But think of how much slower it is. It needs to first release a hormone. That hormone needs to fall into circulation. It needs to travel in the blood and arrive at a certain part of the body. And then it's going to exercise some sort of control. So the nervous system is the speedy, fast, really fast control of your body, and the endocrine is also a control system, but a lot slower. So let's start out by looking at central nervous versus peripheral nervous system. And I think you're all aware of the brain being central nervous system, along with the spinal cord, and this you might be surprised, which ends actually there. And this is coming back up here. It doesn't go all the way. All this here is central nervous system. That's where all the cell bodies are. You drew some of those motor neurons when you did your tissue drawings. Those cell bodies are hiding out there in the CNS. And then the extensions that are leaving and coming out of that spinal cord are the peripheral nerves, and that's the peripheral nervous system. So these little boxes are actually really helpful because you think of central nervous system as really straightforward. It's just the brain and the spinal cord, and we're doing great there. That's good. But the peripheral nervous system needs a lot more controls. So we're going to separate it into the sensory division and the motor division. If you think of peripheral nervous system, sensory division, you're thinking of somatic sensory. It's the feelings that you have that you know, touch, taste, smell, sight, all those are somatic sensory. You're quite aware as to what position of the body those are in and what you're feeling on those. A little more vague is that sensation coming from your viscera or coming from your organs. That's going to be visceral sensory division that's over here. And that one may be more diffuse. You can't really tell what's going on in the pancreas. Right? You can't really tell if there's a pain coming from your liver. So that's all sensory coming from your viscera or your internal organs. Okay, straightforward. But now we come to motor division. How do we direct movement, for example? Well, we studied muscle already, so you know that you could have a neuron coming here, somatic motor division. Somatic here, meaning that it's coming to a muscle, for example. You have control of that. You want to pick up your pencil. You pick up your pencil. It's coming from the cortex of the brain, sending a signal. It's coming to the particular muscle in control of that. It's pretty straightforward. Less straightforward when you get to the visceral motor division. How is it that your intestine is contracting and relaxing to move that bagel that you ate down your intestinal tract? So that is going to need two switches. How is it that your heart is going to accelerate when you need it to accelerate and slow down when it needs to be slower? That is the visceral motor division. And the two switches are sympathetic division is going to, in the example of the heart here, is going to speed it up. It's going to make it go faster. And the parasympathetic is doing exactly the opposite. So here's switch A, switch B. And with those two controls, we're going to control what's happening in that motor division when it's not somatic, when it's visceral. And that's going to be a separate control so that when you're out for a run, your intestine isn't furiously working to digest that bagel. It's actually going to put that on pause, and you're going to shunt more energy towards your muscles, for example. What comes next is some examples. I want you just to do these by yourself. What do you think that flexing the forearm is? Where would it fit in this array of boxes here? What about micturition reflex, which is urination? If you pinched your finger, if you have sweaty palm in speech class, where does that fit in to those boxes? And I'm going to let you do that. Okay, I want to tell you a little bit about nerves. In the picture here, all these nerves are in yellow. We have them all over. And what we need to know is that there's a big difference between what a neuron is and what a nerve is. Okay? So what you're seeing here in the picture isn't just one cell, right? It's many, many, many forming a nerve. So a nerve is many neurons or many cells traveling together. So let me show you more in the definition here. A neuron or a nerve fiber, we can say nerve fiber, and still we mean one cell only. It's one cell. So in a picture, you drew this in your tissues. You have this cell body, you have this long axon, and you have dendrites. That is one neuron. Now, this big yellow guy here, this is a nerve. This is a nerve. And this is a collection of neurons. If you were to dissect it out in cross-section, you would see many, many, many axons that are, this part, the axon, that are all aligned up neatly. So one nerve, many neurons. Very different. They behave very differently. So what we're going to move on to next is the histology of the nervous tissue. We're going to look at the types of cells, and you looked at both of these when you looked at your tissues again. You had a neuron. We had you draw a motor neuron with its cell body, its axon, its dendrites. And these are specialized for conduction. These are the ones that are sending that message to your arm to pick up that pencil. The other cells we could see as little dots in those drawings that we were making. Tiny in comparison to this big cell that you had like this, right? So these small guys here are, I call them the babysitter cells. All these are called glial cells or neuroglial cells. Gli means glue, and these are the ones that are really the babysitter cells of the neurons. You've got to take care of them. You've got to stay alive. And so support and protection of the nervous system is done by these little guys, these glial cells. And in the next lecture, we're going to go into the different types of glial cells that we have. For now, we're going to cut this here. Thanks for listening.